you've listened to the corporate media, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, the New York Times, etc., you would think that all the lawlessness, death, and destruction unleashed on the southern border was music to Latinos' ears. That's what the corrupt left-wing media has been telling us for years. According to left-wingers in mass media, if it's illegal, it's Latino. And it's one of the reasons why this program was founded, to push back on one of the longest-lived lies ever foisted on the American people by Democrats who control the press. The rise of the Liberty Loving Latino, the truth bombs that blow up the left's narrative about Hispanics, are featured in tonight's preamble. Before I dive into Latinos' historic shift away from socialism in the Democrat Party, let me prove my charge. The legacy media is full of left-wing propagandists who sacrifice facts to preserve a false narrative. Let me prove that the media has been lying to their audiences for decades. I'm not the only one to take notice that fake news outlets ignored germane and disturbing facts about the New York subway terrorist. He's black. He's a Black Lives Matter devotee. He's a devotee to the hate-filled Jew hater, Louis Farrakhan. His left-wing racism and hate apparently met YouTube's social media standards, as his posts where he sought the death of whites and spewed racism against Latinos and Asian people were not taken down from YouTube until he had committed his hate crime in New York subways. None of this information was told to you by the folks who claim to be journalists. Do you know why? They're not journalists. They hid these facts in an effort to protect a fake narrative. The lies promulgated by critical race theory that states that people of color can't be racist. The same fake news reports run by left-wing lunatics. These lunatics are terrified tonight. From the halls of NBC to the darkened geek caves of Facebook, leftists are petrified as reports circulate that Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter. One of his reasons? To restore free speech to social media. Leftists are wetting themselves that Elon Musk might take away their ability to silence their political opposition, and in so doing, their control over the national narrative will collapse. But in truth, their control is already collapsing, much the way the Soviet Union's government lost control in the 1980s. Joe Biden and his Democrat socialist policies have created deep and intense misery in the United States, and that has driven the Latino community to research why their lives have taken such a negative turn. They have given a name to their pain: Democrats. A recent Quinnipiac poll shows that only 26% of Latinos support Joe Biden. In fact, according to the poll, more whites than Latinos support the harm Biden has been doing to the United States. But let's dig down a little deeper. In Texas, ground zero for Democrats destroying Latino communities along the southern border, a recent Texas Public Policy Foundation poll found that 73% of Texas Latinos believe that there is a crisis at the Texas border, and 51% want more to be done about it. More than 60% want more law enforcement, and only 13% loudmouth leftist Latinos believe that less should be done to secure that border. In sharp contrast to the MSNBC critical race theory Democrat hatred of America, where they claim the USA is a racist country, almost 90% of Texas Hispanics say they are proud to be Americans. And proving that over 3/4 of Hispanics love their children more than preserving failed government-run institutions, institutions that have been made to pad the pockets of Republicans and Democrats alike. Fully 78% of Texas Latinos say parents should have the, quote, the right to use the tax dollars designated for their child's education to send their child to whatever school, public, charter, or private school that best serves their needs, end quote. Sadly, as stated, the GOP is colluding with socialists in the Democrat Party to stab American parents in the back, denying them the power over their kids' education through school choice. Now, how many of you are shocked to learn that leftists like Javier Becerra and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez don't speak for the vast majority of Hispanics? In fact, an overwhelming majority of Hispanics find common cause with me, your liberty-loving Latino. They want no part of the destruction of the United States being ushered in by Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and their allies in permanent Washington. Here's the dirty little secret that CNN has been trying to cover up for years. Not all blacks think alike. Not all Latinos think alike. In short, not all Americans think alike. That fact drives them crazy. That's why they're so desperate to silence free speech in America. That's what communists do. The truth is, there is diversity of thought in communities of color, just like there is diversity of thought in America writ large. As the left wing tightens its grip on Americans, the left wing's influence over the hearts and minds of Americans is slipping right through their fingers. Despite their best efforts in media, gov ed, and government, there is nothing the left wing can offer that can compete with the ideals of freedom, love of country, and the rule of law under God. With the rise of the Liberty Loving Latino, we get a hopeful message on this Holy Thursday.